What it is, Hope, and what's up? Can I just keep in touch? Can I just get in love? Oh yeah, I want your number, and I'll call. I follow that thing to the mall. I'm to the hall. Oh yeah. What's good, everybody? It is Uncharted Conversations. It is after 5 p.m. So yes, it's a little rambunctious. I am your host, Dante. This is my co-host.
And you're Monique.
We're talking to Monique. And
You're talking to Monique right now.
so this is Monique. Monique is after 5. So Asia's from 9 to 5. After that, it's at Monique. So
We're in uncharted territory after 5. See what I did there?
see,
Okay.
and we have Uncharted Conversations and Uncharted Territory where they're not uncharted. So you get us to get charted.
At an uncharted time.
Hello. Yeah. And like I said, the questions are on not on deck. Pump fake just yeah. But we are talking about the black church. Yes, that intro did not match the black church. But you know what? God likes a little humor every now and again. So
God knows your heart.
So where do you want to start off with?
You want to explain the background of how we got here?
So currently, I am in charge of a project that's called the UMC, which is the United Methodist Church, which the full Cook University is a branch of. And we're figuring out why college teens, adults, college teens, well, they're adults, technically too.
They're adults, but they're also teenagers.
But
You're 18, 19. Teen.
in the eyes of the law, adult, teenagers beat you at once. Is that fine? And we're figuring out why college adults, college teens are not going to the church. So, this young lady right here is my assistant. She keeps me in track. It keeps me in line. And, you know, I'm not going to share the research because the research is by far not complete yet.
Not close.
But we want to give ideas on maybe why, from what we have saw and what we have seen thus far, without giving the overall totality of results.
Okay, right there.
So, my professional opinion, I think the reason why you can really make it a broad statement and say people, because it's really a decline of people.
Yeah, it's really a decline of people. Even
But-
older people.
But we'll start out with college, and we won't go broad. We make it broad.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to United Methodist Church. It's because the United Methodist Church was based off the founding principles of church when the African Americans first started the church. Fortunately, I have a friend that's a pastor. Shout out to Joseph Isaiah Kelly's minister, Joseph Isaiah Kelly. That is, you know, I got love for you, my boy. The United Methodist Church is very somber. It's very humble. It's very traditional in the way that church is. It's mellow. You almost say melancholy, if I'm being honest, because it's a straight line the entire way through. Very angelic. And when the blacks kind of broke away from the UMC, they came into the AME.
Mm.
And the AME started having, you know, it increased functionality wise.
Mm-hmm.
But the full functionality of the black church never really increased till you got to the Baptist, which later broke away to the Pentecostal and the Kojic.
Because would you say that most black people are Baptists?
Mm-hmm. That's a good question.
Because I always associate Baptist churches with black people.
I would say no, actually. I would say the majority of people are Pentecostal and AME. And the reason why I say that is because this is real. I never heard of like a Caucasian Pentecostal or Kojic.
Okay.
I have never seen a Caucasian shout.
Right.
I have seen them preach.
Mm-hmm.
I have seen them even run churches like that.
Mm-hmm.
But when you talk about the straight Caucasian, you know, Whereas you can have Freedom Baptist or First Baptist Missionary Church of Iran that's led by Willie Topper, a white man.
And Willie is a white man. All right.
Or you can have Free Will Baptist Church that's ran by James Patrick.
Right.
So that's why I would say majority of black people are Baptists. I would say they're really Kojic and Pentecostal.
Gotcha. What's your background in the church?
I am Baptist, but I tell everybody I'm 90% Baptist, and that 10% is Pentecostal.
Got it.
I love me a good 808 track every now and again. Do I want it all the time? No. This gonna sound very bad, but I do not like being in church for 4 hours.
That's not bad. That's real.
I don't.
It don't take 4 hours to
listen. I get
worship.
it. I get it. Some people have had rough weeks in the church to where they have to, shake the devil off, run around the church, scream. The good wig got to come off. The good shoes got to come off. You got the stockings, the good old stockings that they just start crabbing holes in them.
Yeah,
because how holy you are.
Get runs in them.
What? The white even the white no more. It's off white.
Oh, they all white.
Mm.
Right.
And I enjoy that type of church. I really do. But for every Sunday,
no. Sometimes you like to get straight to the point.
I thought I was having a good conversation with Mr. Shaw the other day about I think some songs don't need to be sped up. There's certain songs that really should stay solo flat because you need to feel that
You gotta
spiritual.
feel it, yeah.
Yeah. Like if somebody broke out a song like "It's Getting Late in the Evening," it don't need to be. It's getting late in the evening. It should be sped up. That's one of the songs where your ancestors saying because it's getting late. Trouble's coming at night. But joy comes in the morning.
It's on the horizon.
And I think that's why you sometimes face what's wrong with the church today is it's too much new innovation, excuse me. Because our ancestors didn't have it all like that. You went to church back then because you had a feeling of that you wanted to get off your chest. You didn't have the TVs on the wall. You didn't have cyber worship.
Okay.
You didn't have the fancy carpet on the floor. You had wooden floors back then. You didn't have a piano. You had
just a little. What's the tambourine?
Barely that.
They always had a tambourine.
Barely that. They had the washboard. They had the washboard.
Okay, you talking about like
I'm talking about the
Mississippi.
the old church.
Yeah. When it was in a little shack. That's what you talking about.
And that's why I think church sometimes is not effective because we lost a touch of those values. The church got so rich that they forgot where it came from.
Okay, wake it up. I could say that because I would not the rebuttal because I do agree with you. I would say that the church is, although they've made those electric or those futuristic advances, as you say, I do say that the church in a lot of ways are still very traditional. And I think the fact that they have not evolved is what's kind of holding them back. I would say. What ways
have they not evolved in your opinion?
Huh?
What ways have they not evolved in your opinion?
For one, I know a lot of people will say that they left the church because they felt like the mothers and older generations in the church don't really support. I feel like when it comes to the black community, church was always our
bread and butter.
Yeah, that was always the central of the things that we do. Without the black church, we would have never been able to come together on civil rights issues and voting rights issues. It was the mothers of the church and the women of the church that organized these events and then propped up leaders like Martin Luther King or whoever to go out and speak.
I'm going to go a little opposite of you. I think that's where black church and low-key kind of start messing up, honestly. When they start putting politics into the pulpit.
Okay, I got a rebuttal. Because if we want to go before then, back to slavery, the start of the black church was not necessarily a good a good moral start.
You right.
And I think my whole thing about it, about people leaving the church, is I think the church didn't necessarily start off as a business, but it started off with handling business, handling the master's business, because none of you niggas is allowed to read. But I'm going to choose one of y'all to read, and this is the only book. It's not even the whole book. Y'all can read this. Y'all can do a little. Don't do too much, though. But you can do a little bit on Sundays. Only on Sundays. Right?
Okay.
So that's our start. And then I feel like we evolved into, they beat it into us enough that became a part of our traditions. We created like gospel music, as you were saying, tamarines, washing boards. That's the country, the washing board and stuff. But I think we evolved at a certain point to be like, that's where we would meet. Because at a certain point, hey, on Sundays, that's where Black people went. Mm-hmm. Because as a community, that's what we were, I don't know if the word would be groomed, but that's what we were taught to do, right?
Okay.
So one thing, I worked with the Miami Center for Racial Justice, and one of the first things that we learned was when they were talking about voting rights, Black men got voting rights before women in general, even white women. Black men got voting rights first. And the reason that they gave, well, for one, they just didn't want to give women. They didn't think that we had a voice. They didn't want us to have a voice. But the main reason they chose to give Black men a vote versus Black women is because Black women were often community organizers. So anytime protests broke out or stuff like that, a lot of times Black women were behind the scenes and sending, our best fighters out, going back to Martin and our political leaders and stuff like that. So without the mothers of the church and without the Black church, we technically wouldn't have the rights that we have today. But it's really because that's where we were organized. That's where if we did have a meeting, where else you going to have it? At church. We weren't going nowhere else. We weren't calling town hall meetings or Black town hall meetings. We would meet in the church. Now, fast forward to today, I feel like the church, not every church, but the church in general, I think we kind of getting back to...
I think it's misconstrued, misinformed, and missing a lot in action.
It is missing a lot in action. That's exactly what I was going to say. It's not that support system like it was. Like before, I mean, honestly, churches don't get taxed because the purpose of a church is if you was to ever fall down, if you needed clothes on your back, if you needed food and stuff like that, you were supposed to be able to go to the church and they should be able to help you out, basically, right? I don't know if you've seen, it had went viral a couple months ago, but this lady, she had called around to a bunch of churches asking for baby formula. Do you remember that?
I think I heard about that.
She called so many churches and it was less than a handful that actually said like, yes, come up here. We got baby food for you and stuff like that. She found that the people that said yes were Black churches, mosque, so Muslims, mosque, and like kind of other churches of color. But all of the predominantly white churches, no. They all were like, oh, like some congregations were saying, you have to be a part of the congregation in order for us to help you. Maybe if you were a member, we could provide something to you.
And that's one thing I think I can say the church lost base with community. Mm-hmm. The church should have been always about the community because the community is what made the church.
Yep, community oriented.
You made a good point about the church kind of saying it's a business, but the church is actually a lucrative business.
It is. Oh, for sure.
Because
these mega churches, come on.
How's lights gonna stay on?
Right.
How's you gonna have AC?
If we going based off the Bible, that's not needed for a church. You can easily set up a tent somewhere random and get the worshiping. You don't always need a building, but I get the whole, as a congregation, can we get together? We do have to pay the lights. We do got to pay the AC. I know you guys don't want to be in the heat while we worshiping, but I draw the line when you're saying ushers close the doors, or when you're going out your way. Like I've been to, that is my like litmus test when I go to churches, because I grew up non-denominational. My dad, he was definitely like, he ain't into that. We've been at church for 4 hours. He really wasn't into the whole praise and worship thing. His whole thing was, let's get in his word, study it and go about our day, really.
I hate that you didn't experience a good place of worship.
Oh no, I did. We went to
Oh.
a lot of churches, but my litmus test is basically his litmus test. If the church did something that he didn't like, we would never go to that church again. And his oftentimes is the way they go about tithes and offerings. There's a church, I won't name no names, but it's a church around here on campus that I went to with one of my friends. And the way the pastor went about tithes and offerings, I told her afterwards because she was like, "Oh, how do you think about it?" I was like, "It's not bad. Would I come back? I'm gonna be honest, no." And he went about it because he was like, it was kind of like he made a command versus, with tithes and offerings. For one, tithes and offerings not in the Bible. That whole 10%, excuse my French, is bull. Is bull. We're not supposed to be doing tithes and offerings. That's not what's discussed in the Bible. And the tithes and offerings wasn't for us. It was for, I believe, the Jews or Gentiles, somebody. It wasn't for us. And tithes and offerings back then meant giving up a goat, giving up a chicken, maybe even your firstborn. But it never applied to us. Now I get it. Things evolve and not going back to the whole thing of we got bills to pay and stuff like that. But you should not be going out your way to pressure people to give you a certain amount. And I think the certain amount that they had asked was like, everybody contribute $25. Everybody contribute $25. And I was just like,
Well, did they make it known that it was a sacrificial offering though, or no?
I think it's all about your delivery.
Okay.
And the way he did it, it gives pressure. Like you're pressuring me. And now that here I am, maybe not saying like at that moment, because I don't remember if I end up giving tithes offer or not. But say it was a person in there that's like, oh, I only got $2 to contribute. Now, as a pastor, you making me feel bad because you're like, remember, you have to do, because they command. It's like a command. It's like a command. They're like, the whole excuse is 10%. You invest 10%, God will invest back in you. Mm-hmm. You show me in the word where it says any of that, right? So I feel like the church has become more worldly, and I honestly think we what's the word? Like we've lost the plot. The church has lost the plot. We go beyond Jesus' teachings, and a lot of people in the church, that's like pastor, minister, mothers of the church stuff, they don't operate like Jesus at all. And I think, especially like our generation, we see through that. I think before, it's kind of a thing of, like I know my parents are Gen X.
Uh-huh.
And I know they grew up, it was very like a traditional sense of, their mom always took them to church on Sundays, stuff like that. For most of my childhood, it was like that as well. Until like maybe later on, they kind of was just like, we doing our own thing. But what can I say? I think it's a conversation of people being very judgmental, people not feeling safe in these environments. When we have this conversation, we have to talk about sexual abuse. It runs rampant through the Black church and churches in general. Catholic church, the priest, it's really bad. Not only sexual abuse, sometimes abuse in general. We have to have a conversation about the fact that some people are like religious nuts. The people running this country right now are religious nuts. And we have to start being real. Like, when it comes to tradition, just because it's a tradition and just because it's something that you and your people have always done does not mean it does not need to evolve. And it does not mean that it's not harming y'all. Mm-hmm. And I feel like as a community, I won't say, because growing up, I was very religious. Like, there was a point in time where I didn't even listen to music. Like, that's how religious my dad, he wasn't playing. He wasn't playing at all. This man would have the iPod plugged up to the radio, and it would be a narration of the Bible, King James. So I would have to hear this white man in my ear on a long road trip, going through all these books of the Bible. Like, it was so, not bad, but it was to the point to where, like, my dad's party trick for me and my brother was he would ask us for us to quote random scriptures in the Bible, and we would be able to quote it. Mm-hmm. So I've come a long way in my spiritual journey, and right now I can say I'm agnostic, which agnostic means you believe in God, but you can't really, like, I'm not finna tell you, I can't really confirm, I don't know nothing. I don't know that. You know what I mean? So I'm not gonna force anything on you. I'm gonna respect whatever you believe and stuff like that. I have my own relationship with God. I have my own thoughts about God. And it wasn't until I became like agnostic and chose to like learn myself that I became closer to God. And I'm able to have these conversations and realize, yeah, there are a lot of issues that need to be addressed when it comes to community.
I think for me, I always have a deep love for the Black church because it's sad. It might be sad to say because you go to church for the word, but praise and worship is what starts the church.
Yes, praise and because I think
in fact, actually, I'm lying. I really am. That's actually the second part of the church. It's really that devotion. Devotion really is what sets the tone for the church. So when you had the old deacon that he done been through hell all week, his wife done made him mad a few times this week. He done had the doctors telling some bad news, and he just sit up in the corner and start up a hymn. You already knew somewhere
it's about to be a good word.
Somewhere or another, this brother right here is he's going through it.
Yeah.
And then that just set the tone for the praise and worship where you got and praise and worship used to be so good because where you could just cut out the instruments and the straight.
And everybody just singing.
It's so angelic and everything.
Yeah, it's like it's an energy.
And that's when we always would say God is in the room. Because God.
That's normally when people catch Holy Ghost.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the preacher comes up and the word has been a long, hard fought word, but not everything is set in place. And that's why I say I always have a deep love and respect for the church. But I think, to go to your point, a lot of kids is missing out on that because we have gone away from those traditions.
Yeah, we've lost the plot.
Devotion is not really a devotion no more. You ain't got the old deacon getting on his knees talking to Jesus no more, praying to Jesus. You don't have selections got limited from 3 to 4 to 2. And then sometimes the word, a lot of preachers are now becoming so intellectual in their sermons that it's hard to grasp what that whole topic is.
Can you elaborate on that?
For example, certain pastors that I have watched over time, they will use big words like
I have a way I want to steer this conversation.
Okay.
Now that you're saying this.
They will use big words to, try to hit a point in the sermon and to get to their 3 points. Because I come from the church Baptist, where we do 3 points.
Okay.
You have your topic, you have your 3 points, and your close.
Okay.
Some preachers, in their 3 points, you might hear something like, it has to be pivotal for the emancipation of the proclamation to hit to the Lord of sedation.
Right.
The whole time he said it. The whole time you'd be like, what did he say?
Right.
But it comes to, maybe you have your mothers in the church, and the mothers use the older women in the church, where they be asking, am I just that dumbfounded, or am I not intelligent? And is he not talking what I can preach them? Maybe they start questioning themselves, and it's like, church is not supposed to that. Church really, to me, is when, especially when it comes to the sermon, pull up worldly things that has happened and make a connection to the Bible.
All right.
A good instance would be, I can't think of the exact scripture, but when Jesus went on a boat and the boat started sinking because a storm came out and a bunch of men was trying to throw water out the boat and whatnot. Easy worldly connotation to that is you have this set, let's say, disease that came in your life. You're in the midst of your storm, and it might be hard because you're trying to everything you can yourself to get rid of this disease. But when you lean on God, when you call on His name, things start working in your favor. And that's just a worldly connotation that makes you, it gives you something to keep going into the next week. Right. Into the next week. Because the church is really supposed to be a hospital at the end of the day. Because that's where everybody who has issues is supposed to bring the issues to the church. Now, granted, the church is not a building. The church is the congregation itself.
Congregation, right.
But you miss out on a lot of stuff like that because it's been kind of manipulative into the church is the building. Come to church, come to the building, come to this, come to that.
Right.
And I think that's why a lot of teens or kids or college or adults miss out on church. But where did you want to go with this conversation?
Because I think you have some real good points, some good points that I can definitely bounce off of.
Okay.
So, I have an unpopular opinion, and this is kind of going back to what prompted my spiritual journey and for me to actually deconstruct Christianity. Now, if we were to go back to slavery, I feel like everything we have to go back to origin. Where did we come from, right? I feel like what we're witnessing is church started off as a band-aid, right? Black people and white people worship God and Jesus completely different.
Agreed.
With us, it came from, post slavery for one. Actually, we'll go down the timeline. So slavery, kind of to your point that you just made about you called it like a hospital, right? Mm-hmm. So here you have a pastor or a deacon every Sunday going through a sermon. It's mainly about motivation. Here you are doing back-breaking labor. You in the hot sun, picking cotton every week. You look forward to going to church on Sundays because you need that. You need that word. You need those motivational words from the pastor to keep you going. You know, I really would like to research this whole topic right here and see was there? What can I say? When did the white man put the Bible in our hands? Because we know when slavery started, of course they was already feeding us. That was the whole ploy. Get us to convert into Christianity, abandon everything we knew before. And, that's how they started this whole process. I feel like after slavery, we definitely started to worship a bit harder because now we're free. Mm-hmm. If we came from slavery to now we're free. Jesus can do anything. God can do anything. Our faith in him can do anything. Mm-hmm. I think that's how, as a community, we were looking at it, right? Now, when we take into account all of the issues that our community still face to this day and the things that's going on right now and how many systems are actually dismantling in front of our eyes, I think the church was more so like a Band-Aid over an open wound.
Yeah.
And I feel like nowadays, us in the youth, the reason that there's such a incline of people leaving the church is people see that Band-Aid is not enough to cover that wound anymore. Because, sometimes it's not, I don't think it's enough to go to church anymore and hear those motivational words. Because at the end of the day, I still gotta go to work tomorrow. I still gotta work 45 plus hours. I was in Buc-ee's yesterday and they hired full time. Why did that chart say it said 45 to 50 something hours as a full-time hours just straight off? Normally it used to be like 35 to 40 as full-time week. They upping the hours now for you to get that overtime or I don't know or whatever. And on the other side of this conversation, not only do I feel like it's a Band-Aid over open wound, which is the system, the things that we face as a community, but I also feel like it hinders us in a way. Mm. Because one thing I could say that I really do like that my dad did do, I like praise, worship, and devotion. I feel like maybe we need to evolve into something else. But when it comes to the Bible more so, I can say that most people, I won't even say black people, most Christians have not read the Bible from front to back. Have you?
I have not.
My dad, because he had us going through it over and over again. See, like I told you earlier, my dad, he was in prison. So that's how he ended up getting closer to God, because he was in prison, reading the word. And that's how he found that was his motivation. He found his way through that tough time through God. There's nothing wrong with that. And that's why I'm all about freedom of religion. It's all about your perspective. If Jesus is what will help you get through day-to-day struggles, that's you. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, somebody might feel like Islam is the way. Somebody
That's
might
why you had the different religions, of course.
right. So with that, going back to slavery, like I said, the master would choose one person, teach him how to read, and he only learned how to read this book. Nobody else knew how to read the book. With that, I feel like if we come today, like you said, you pick that one topic, you get your 3 points, and then you have your conclusion. I honestly think if most Christians were to read the Bible from front to back, from what I gathered, Jesus never wanted to be worshipped. He wanted you to become like him. But I think the deception that the system, when I say the system, I really mean the white man. The deception that has came into play is they made you think that you're less than perfect. They made you think that God is outside of you when God is within you. He's within me. He's within any person walking around here. He's within the trees. He's not in these cameras, but you get what I'm saying.
Right.
And I feel like if you was to read the Bible from front to back, you would have a lot of questions, and you will want answers to them questions. Now, when you go to the church and you have these questions, they shut you down. Nah, you're not supposed to question anything. Don't say you speaking against yada yada yada. You know, you're supposed to be quiet. This is what you're supposed to do. Mm-hmm. I think I've always been a child that has questioned things. I've always been like that. And I used to get yelled at for it. Don't ever. Da, da, da. But I mean, when we're talking about things that's happening today, and the fact that I feel like it's not necessarily our fault that oftentimes, you know, as Christians, we find it so hard to live like Jesus and try to be like Jesus. And instead, we blame a lot of our hardships or the bad things that happen to us on the devil. Instead of taking the ACC word, part two. Accountability. We blame it on the devil when a lot of times, you know, it's right there in your face. Like the Bible tells you that yes, you have to do inner work. You have to do, you know, you have to grow. And it's not necessarily to say, oh, cut out smoking and drinking, you need to stop having sex. I'm not necessarily saying that, but it's a lot that Jesus did, and you can learn from his example. And what I can't get with is when you acting like a heathen Monday through Saturday. Sunday you come, and then when you go back out, still acting like a heathen Monday through Saturday, you got the nerve to judge somebody just because they said, oh, I'm not a Christian. Okay, you're a Christian, but are you living like Jesus? Are you following his teachings? Are you doing any of this stuff? And I often feel like the faith or the church can promote anti-intellectualism.
Elaborate.
Most people have not read the Bible from front to back because a lot of people in our community can't read.
Okay.
And that's not even to say like, you know, they just can't read at all. But most of us, especially like the older people in our community, they can't read past the 6th grade level. You would never be able to get through that book. You would never be able to, you would have, like, I think we depend on the pastor. Okay. We depend on the pastor to give us the certain things. And be honest, pastors are not going through the book from front to back. They're picking, you know, like you said, this is the struggle that he had this week. Hey, maybe like the gas prices, for example. I know this past Sunday, I know the preachers probably, most of their sermons was talking about like, you know, guys, we just gotta, you're gonna get through this hard time. It was a very probably emotional sermon, right? But when you talk about the faith as a whole, what pastor is going from front to back? And I feel like pastors are doing a disservice to the community for that. Because if you read the Bible from front to back, you will learn a lot more than just going to church and having these certain snippets. It's like we pick our favorite stories, but we disregard so many other books.
I can see your point, but I want to say I think a lot of pastors now are actually trying to get into getting more into the book. Because
I can see that.
Because I think a lot of pastors are starting to do series now on like chapters. So like my pastor, for instance, he would do a whole summer series on like, let's say, Acts 13 and the whole Acts 13, and he will break it down to a sermon for the next 20 weeks almost.
Mm-hmm.
And then he'll break it down to that to where he can try to make it as earthly as he can.
Mm-hmm.
And I think pastors are now trying to make Christians understand the whole entity of being a Christian on this earth. I like your point where you said there's a lot of temptations out there, and of course, temptations are there to tempt you into do stupid things.
Mm-hmm.
But I also want to preface this by saying we don't take accountability well. But I think the reason why we blame a lot of stuff on the devil is because it was devil-like people making substances for us to do.
Elaborate. What do you mean by that?
So, for instance, right, OnlyFans, right?
Okay.
OnlyFans was made for a quick money, for a quick bang, for a quick buck.
Mm-hmm.
We can say as a human that made it, but did he make it based off Christian values? More than likely not.
Okay.
He made it off earthly values.
Okay.
And everybody who read somewhat of the Bible knows that the devil was an angel at one point in time before he got kicked out of heaven and became the devil, of what we all know him to be. And I think what ended up happening is the devil played a factor into earthly things. That's why it made it so easy to be tempted into do those earthly things.
Mm-hmm.
Am I making sense? Or
You are.
so
I do have a rebuttal.
that's
But
fair.
you are.
That's fair.
Mm-hmm.
This is a conversation, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's where you look at people say the devil made me do this, the devil made me do that.
I definitely understand why
Which
they
is
do it.
why it's not. Is it a good statement to say?
Mhm.
No,
Right.
because at the end of the day, you had a choice to say no to it.
Yep.
Of course, but I do think the devil do sometimes plays a fact in earthly transitions. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. You already said my rebuttal. I feel like we don't take accountability. And when we're not able to take accountability, then we don't hold others accountable in the things that they do. Because I think when you let me try to say this. I'm trying to make a comparison between I'm trying to make a comparison between what can I say? How can I say this? I'm trying to word this correctly. I do feel like you have to take accountability for things because at the end of the day, just going based off of Christianity, at the end of the day, the devil getting judged right along with you. Or if I'm not mistaken, he's supposed to already be down there chained up. That's in the Bible. But it's like when you put the excuse, it's really just excuses. It's really excuses, and I feel like that holds us back as well. When you have an outside source, it's taking away accountability for the things that you do, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Whether it's a bad thing and you want to blame it on the devil, or whether it's a good thing and you want to blame it on God. I feel like to the OnlyFans, at the end of the day, that's you going on there creating an account. That's you going on there spending your money to see bad biddies. You can't blame the devil on that. You can't. Because at the end of the day, when you have conversations like, I know a big one that I kind of stand on is like child abuse. Okay. Whether that's sexual child abuse or physical child abuse. A lot of people who are atheists or non-believers, the ones who have more of like malice in their heart, and that's the reason that they do it. I mean, can you be mad at them for why? Hey, I don't want to blame the devil. I actually want to look at God. Why God didn't stop this and stuff like that. It's like we taken away from the fact that you were abused by somebody. That wasn't the devil. That was a man or a woman, because either can be an abuser. But that was a person, and they need to be held accountable for that. No outside source told them to do that to you as a child. And I think that it often just overshadows. And then when we go back to, I always like to go back to origin. If I give you this book and I'm telling you that all of your problems are because the devil is the cause of it, you're not looking at the fact that it's actually Master who's whooping your ass every week. He is the reason that you're doing this or whatever. And I think even if we're not talking about the whole like, white versus black thing, even if we're just talking in our community, there's a lot of things that just we need to be held accountable for things.
Okay. So, question then: what is things that maybe the church can do better to get members to come back?
I think they need to evolve, to be honest. I think people having a safe space to come and worship, cry, scream, whatever, like, the things that we have to deal with throughout the week is often hard.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go to church, that the space is supposed to be where you're supposed to be able to release. You and your creator are here in this space together and you are trying to worship him and you're trying to think about all the good things that's going on. You're trying to forget about all the negativity. You're there to be motivated. I think the disconnect is church is not motivating people no more because right now, like I said, that wound has gotten worse. That Band-Aid can't cover that wound. So unless the church wants to stay relevant, they need to start addressing real issues. And it kind of go back to your point earlier about how you feel like, they should keep politics out of the church. I feel like they should bring politics back into the church. And that would cause us to become one again as a community. When we was fighting for civil rights, of course everybody and their mama was coming to church. Because after the sermon, hey, we got a meeting, niggas. We need to do a protest. We need to do a protest this upcoming Saturday. Da da da. Nowadays, I think we've lost the plot and a lot of people see through the deception. I feel like, if anything, the devil is right there in the church. A lot of times. Whether he asks you for tithes and offerings, whether it's some underground things that nobody knows about. We got to start addressing these issues.
I agree. I think the church has sometimes became a scapegoat.
Mm-hmm.
I know in some churches, whether it's white or black,
Mm-hmm.
child molestation has become a very pivotal point to where it affects the church as a whole because it could be you think your pastor's a great person, a great individual, and then next thing you know, he's touching on kids inappropriately, and he's not messing with kids, and now he's messing with kids, and I think when you discover that as a church, you don't always know what's going on behind the scenes. You might just send, let's just say, because some people are naive in today's society, you might send little Johnny May to go cut the pastor's lawn because he needed it, and Johnny May didn't realize he began to touch it appropriately. So I do agree with you. There is some undercover stuff in the church that really do needs to be talked about because it does happen. And it's a real conversation that needs to be brought up.
Right.
But I also think the church, how you said it needs to evolve, I think we need to go back to the old days. I think Mr. Shaw said the best one time.
Mm-hmm.
Church people expect to be pumped and primed in the middle of church. And that's never what church is supposed to be. You're supposed to go ahead and pump and prime yourself to come to church. Now, granted, you might have had a hard week, but just because you had that hard week, that should make you want to come into the church house to release those emotions, to allow yourself to be one with the creator, one with the maker. Because sometimes the pastor might not be able to pump and prime you. Sometimes you might have to pump and prime yourself. You might have to just say, you know what, Jesus, I'm trying. I got to get to the house. And that's where I think we missed a lot. I missed out on, if I'm being honest, because when you had that mentality, I got to get to this house. I just got to get to the house. And I'm not talking about your actual physical address house. I'm talking about the house of the Lord. Because when you have that mentality that I have to get there, it sometimes makes you feel better and makes your burdens that's weighing on you feel lighter. Now, is it going to fully leave you? Of course not. It's not, the burden's still not going to leave you. They probably won't leave you till you actually get in the church door, until you done shouted a few times, until you done ran up and down. Because I believe in church humor.
Okay.
I think God created comedy because not everything's supposed to be taken serious in life, because I like how hard life can get.
Right.
So if such and such fell out, hey, it might be a little comical to the teens, but it happened because that might be the laugh you needed to keep you pushing into the next week.
Right.
That might be the sweat you needed to get you over the hump. That might be the person you needed to talk to because he gave you some words of inspiration to keep going. And it might not even come from the pastor. It could come from your pew neighbor.
Yeah.
I miss when pastors used to say, "Turn to your neighbor."
They don't do that anymore?
They do, but you don't see it a lot as much. Well, you see it in the black church.
What's up?
Of course. But I'm talking about it. But I would like to see it. I think that's one thing that I would like to see across all churches.
Yeah.
Because,
and that goes back to we worship differently.
Yeah, because if you think about it and being honest, going to church and not knowing who you sit next to can be sometimes scary. Especially if you look at what happened 12 years ago now. With the Charleston mass shooting that happened at that black church.
Yeah, that was.
So
they get him in Burger King after they arrested him.
So stuff like that, it's just, I feel like you need to revert back to know that. Yeah. If it's me and I'm the pastor, and thank God I'm not a pastor, but if I'm the pastor, we ain't having no carpet. We going wood.
Wood? I'm worried about it.
I mean, I want
barefoot.
Listen, I'm gonna have to call pest control because we gotta have termites. That's the type of thing I'm going back to. We going back to just another day that the Lord He has. She is way off.
I don't know this song.
I know you don't.
But
it's
all
very
I know, not all I know, because I know a good amount of gospel songs. But sunny day.
That's right.
Jesus was. He was. Okay. Yeah.
Nah, that was a very slow song.
You know.
I was like, whoa, we not there yet. We not there yet. But in all seriousness, though, when the church used to be the old school church, it was the people that had to go to church. Now it's no more. I have to go. It's I can go if I want to. I can go if I don't. And I think that's where we have to get back to. We have to go back to. I want to be in the house. Going back to the original question, because I don't know if you know, we got way sidetracked from
really?
Because we started talking about UMC and what's wrong with UMC.
But I think we talking about the issue. You don't think?
Yeah. I think we kind of went to the broad without trying to go to the broad.
Directly UMC versus church in general. But I mean, I think that's a conversation that you got to have both when talking about it. Because it's not just the UMC who's seeing decline in members. I think it's all churches all together.
I agree.
Because what I could say...
I will also say this too, and I think there's another reason for the decline. A lot of good preachers have gone on already.
Oh, back home?
Back home.
To the upper room?
Yeah.
Upper room. I feel like they've either gone to the upper room, or I've seen actually a lot of testimonials of pastors going to theology school, learning what they learned, and then coming out atheists and deconstructing. Not of the new age pastors, from what they learned. And I feel like the church either needs to evolve or they need to be dismantled. That's my unpopular opinion. But I say that because I can only talk for me. For me, when I got closer to God, I found my purpose. And my purpose is I want to be a community builder. I want to have my own communities one day. I feel like a lot of issues that we deal with in the world right now, we ain't got to deal with it. We really don't. If we all come together as a collective and fix this,
we are too many personalities.
We can do it. We can do it. And I feel like how you said, like, you know, people, how did you word it? People, they don't choose to come to the church.
Yeah, anymore. They more or less don't have to. They don't have to.
And I think it kind of goes to
Why?
Like, you know, most of the time we go to the church to get a motivational word. You know, we had a hard week and we need to, get through, push by.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like, well, when you leave the church, you come out of that like mystical energy and you get back into the real world real fast. As soon as you pull out that parking lot, you get back into the real world. And for me, what I feel like my calling is to kind of spread to other people is we need to start getting to the root causes of, why do we feel that we need to be motivated to the next week? You know why? Because we working long hours at a job that don't pay.
You basically think that stop the problem before the problem even gets there.
Right.
Gotcha.
I feel like if more people actually, if Christianity is your thing and Jesus is who you choose to follow,
Mm-hmm.
if more Christians were actually operating like Jesus, we would know that Jesus was about getting out and doing. Because what is it? Faith without work is a dead faith.
Right.
Unfortunately, a lot of Christians fall under that. Jesus was out feeding the homeless, clothing people, touching the sick, kissing babies, turning water into wine and stuff. He was making stuff happen.
Mm-hmm.
He was telling you that, the people who killed him, the Roman Empire, he was telling you these are bad people. He was telling you, hey, if when he walked up into the church and they were selling stuff and how he flipped all the tables and started whipping people. Like we pick and choose the things that we want out of the Bible, and I think we have gone past his actual story.
Okay.
And what it is if we are to go out and actually work within our faith, do those things, clothing the homeless, feeding the homeless, helping people that are in need, uplifting people, really, I feel like Jesus would have been a freedom fighter. I can't lie. He would have been dismantling the system that we are and been telling you don't need it. If you read the Bible from front to back and you really get to know that New Testament, it is in there. It's in there clear as day. But going back to that literacy rate, it's a lot of big words in the Bible. Can't lie. And that's why you kind of need like somebody that did go to theology school, like a pastor or a deacon, to explain certain words to you because language is everything. Okay. And a lot of times language gets misconstrued. Okay. But overall, the lesson of Jesus and of the Bible, because most Christians are going off the New Testament. They're not really going off the Old Testament. Another conversation about that. But with it, I feel like if we were to take the time, just like we took the time back in the 50s to go out and demand change and demand for our rights, if we was to actually do this in terms of this whole system that we feel like we need to, it just goes back to that Band-Aid over the wound.
Sure.
Because when we talk about like white Christians versus black Christians, somebody did a breakdown of kind of going back to the lady with the baby food. Okay. They wanted to know, okay, well, why was it that the black church was more inclined to provide baby food versus the white church? It's because we worship God totally different. Okay. White people view God as, I have a good life, so I know I'm living correctly. Black people look at it as, look how far we've come. Okay. You can't tell me that Jesus isn't real. You can't tell me that God isn't real. Nothing like that. So I feel like we've kind of, not to say like we've merged into it, but we kind of have merged into that thought process as well. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of people, kind of going back to the whole judgmental thing, not following Jesus's teachings to the T as you should, but a lot of people will look down on the less fortunate because it's like, well, God's blessing me, so I'm doing what I need to do. Whole time, that's not really why you got a good life. You got a good life because you've been fortunate to have a good life. Ain't nothing bad happened to you. But when you look down on other people, that's where the issue comes in and stuff like that. And I feel like sometimes that hinders us. I'm really just trying to nail the faith without works.
Yeah.
Most of us are not. We're not working how we need to, and we focus on the wrong things. Priorities.
I see your point. I think you have a very valid point in um the faith without works is dead because and how the different Christians worship. I can kind of see your point.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just very curious. I know it's getting late, so yeah, I guess we gotta have another part.
Shall
we do another part?
Should we do another part?
You
I
know,
don't know. Should we do another part?
y'all tell us. So, as always, you gotta keep it real, keep it funky, keep it style out. Peace.